They think that will focus on initial belief, right? Someone will say, well, I believe in Jesus. Oh, well, how did you first come to believe that? And so they ask that question. Yeah, well, so why would that focus on, it's like, well, let's forget everything else that's happened in the last, 15, 20 years of your life. Tell me about when you were 13 and you first came to believe. Why was it, right? I don't know. I guess whenever I say it like that, it sounds obvious. But why would this be a bad question?
So what I say, let me just back up a little bit. So this question, when you hear this first, when you hear them ask, how did you first come to believe in Christianity, or why do you believe this? Be very straightforward in your answer to this question if you are in dialogue with a street epistemologist. I mean, I would suggest this just more generally as well, but be very straightforward about this. So if you believe in Christianity because of the cumulative force of the evidence, say it. If it just seems right to you, then say it. If you grew up that way and have no reason to reject it, or you've been given no defeaters for Christianity, say that instead. Just be very honest about it. I mean, you don't really have a whole lot to be worried about, and from my perspective. But I mean, if we're looking at belief origins, there's something lurking that can be a really big issue, which is called the genetic fallacy. The genetic fallacy says that just because someone has poor reasons, or there's the origin of their belief is unreliable, that doesn't mean that the belief is false. This commits what's called the genetic fallacy. We don't want to do that, but sometimes, I mean, that's not the end of the question. Some Christians actually they bring up the genetic fallacy, and they say, well, that's enough to dispel these types of questions about belief origins. But I want to say that we don't want to go that far. We want to say that it still could call into question the justification for our belief, even if it doesn't mean the belief is false. It could call into question our reasons and our justification for believing it.
Right. And I think this is one area
let me just
go
ahead.
I was going to say, I think this kind of gets back to, like we said before, where they're just trying to take you to the point of doubt, not actually finding truth. Right. So it's like, hey, why did you first believe? Well, that's a bad reason to believe. Well, okay, but that's not all there is to it. Okay, so you need to further ask questions then about whether or not the belief is true, even if your initial reason was bad.
Right. So here's an example, and this actually applies to most of our ethical beliefs. I was taught really early on that we shouldn't treat other people of different races unfairly. And I haven't really gained a whole lot of evidence in support of that since then. It's just sort of something that's been ingrained in me through culture and society. You might even want to say that I was indoctrinated to believe that we should treat people of different races fairly. But does that mean that I'm unjustified in my belief? That I should treat other people of different races fairly? I don't think so. Even though that, I was, you could say that I was indoctrinated to believe it, even especially through culture where I live in America. There's just not a whole lot that follows from pointing out these belief origins.
Just to let's throw a bomb in there of a controversial topic. Chances are you're dealing with an atheist, you're probably dealing with a naturalist, you're dealing with someone who holds science to high regard, and so they probably believe in evolution. Most people do. But they probably did not learn about evolution from a diligent study of the evidence through scientific inquiry, right? They learned it from like PBS cartoons and Dr. Seuss. It was indoctrinated in them from a very early age. And a lot of people, if you were to dig and say, okay, well, why is evolution true? Oh, well, science says so. But they probably couldn't tell you anything. They might point, it might say something about fossils. They might say something about, dating. But they don't actually have any other real reasons because they haven't actually studied it. It was just indoctrinated to them. That doesn't mean it's false. And I guarantee you, if you were to ask that of someone, they're going to go from there straight into, but the evidence. Okay, then let's stop messing around with this question of initial belief and let's just talk about the evidence.